Welcome to the Summit Club, a weekly podcast series where I uncover the stories, the strategies, the pain, and the elation behind the most highly performant people on earth. The Summit Club is based on one simple idea, that in the climb of life, there is no summit. Join me as we interview the very best performers across all human endeavours, as we uncover the tools and templates that they use to maximise their potential in their efforts to get to the summit. My guest today is Liam Evans. He's a YouTube creator, e-commerce design and marketing specialist from London. He's also my business partner at Unorthodox Digital, which is our Web3 marketing consultancy. I met Liam a year ago during a time when we were both making super similar videos on YouTube documenting the NFT bubble of 2021 and 2022. Liam's, without a doubt, the highest output professional I've ever seen. His output is fucking mental. We also have a load of fun working together. Liam, welcome to the Summit Club, mate.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate you bringing me on. So excited to be here. I speak to you almost every day, but it's so much different when we're actually in a situation like this and I'm on the Summit Club. This is a dream come true.
Mate, you say we speak to each other almost every day. We speak to each other guaranteed every day.
I speak to you more than my girlfriend at this point, but I'm happy with it because you make me money and she costs me money. So we're all good.
Oh, I love it. So, mate, thank you so much for joining me. I find you an incredibly fascinating character, and one, to be honest, I feel very fucking fortunate that I get to work alongside every day. We do have a lot of fun together in the little trio that we have at Unorthodox. But I think one of the unique things is that we're both to some degree we're YouTubers. Like, that's how we met last year, right? We were doing the exact same types of videos. Speculative videos on NFTs during the NFT bubble, where we were getting paid to potentially allegedly promote projects that, looking back, maybe we were like, okay, well, this was fucking stupid, but at the time it felt like euphoria, right? Can you remember what it felt like, but like a year ago when we were doing that?
It was like, you know, when you used to play Sims back in the day when you was a kid, right? And you'd be like building these houses and you're like, fuck, I just don't have enough money. And then you'd find the unlimited money glitch and you're like, oh shit, this is how you play Sims. This is what it actually is. And this is what I want to be doing. And once you've tasted that, you can't go back. So yeah, it was literally like unlocking an unlimited money glitch. People were pissing and throwing money everywhere. And wherever that's happening, I tend to follow and try to get my fair share. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I miss those days.
Well, let's talk a little bit about these unfair or kind of crazy unfair money glitches, because that's not the first time you've tasted that, right? Like, so I know your story inside out. I know where you've been. You've done loads of businesses, you've created lots of businesses, you've tried and tested lots of stuff. Can you remember like a time, maybe the first time, where you were like, okay, this is, I feel like I may have cracked the code here, I've got the cheat code, and I don't want to tell anyone. Can you remember when you had that?
Yeah, I think like so we kind of have to go back years and years. So at this point I'm like, you know, late 20s, and I'm in a position now, luckily, where I've had years of experience in what I've done online, e-commerce, running agencies, you know, being a content creator as well, and then doing different things with sort of like guerrilla marketing style businesses that I've set up. We'll touch on that later. But it all kind of started like since a young age. I've always said, like, I don't want to fucking work for someone. I never did well in school. I never really did well with people telling me what to do. I guess that's similar to most of the world, but most people can get through that. But for some reason, I just couldn't do it. Like, so up to the age of 18, I worked for a graphic design studio. It was my first real job. I got paid $15K a year, which for you Americans is like $18,000 a year. And I had to travel into London every day. It was the worst. It was a great job, but the worst pay. And like when I was 18, all I wanted to do was go out, get drunk, and, you know, just enjoy my life. So then I kind of came to this realization. I was like, wait, I'm dedicating all of this time to this job to get this amount of money, which I'm still struggling to live on. And then I'd go home and I'd be living with my mum at the time. And my mum's also doing the same thing at her job, except she's 30 years older than me. And I'm like, how does this make any fucking sense? Why does anyone do this? It just doesn't make sense. So anyway, long story short, I quit that job sort of like 9 months, 10 months in. and ended up going to China, traveling around Asia. We went to lots of different countries and just basically spent all of the savings that I had over that last 8-9 months, and then moved to Australia. And then whilst I was there, we literally got, me and my best mate, we got call center jobs where we just, honestly, we'd mess around. It wasn't taken seriously. Everyone in those call centers in Australia were all backpackers as well. So it was literally just, you turn up, you speak to your team leader. He basically says, do as little as possible today. And don't worry, I'll let you get away with it. And it was like fucking epic. Like, you're getting paid good money, and then you get to go out afterwards and just like have a good life. So like, I had 2 years of that in Australia where it didn't just reinforce to me that it is just a game. Like, we're going to die one day. There is no point us slaving away personally. Like, okay, some people will, and that's their path and where they're going to head in their journey. But for me, it doesn't make any sense slaving away for someone else. So I kind of had this realization, like, sitting with me for years and years and years, that it's like, you don't need to be doing these hard, difficult things. You don't need to go to university. You can literally just apply a bit of hustle and a bit of, graft, and you'll get to what you want. Nothing's really impossible. So the first time it really clicked was I was probably 22, started dropshipping. That was my entrance point into the online business world. After doing what a lot of people do, sitting on YouTube, looking at how to make money online, that kind of thing. And it was like, okay, yeah, this is where I'm going to go, because the results that you receive from that is all down to the output, the input that you put in, right? That's the output. So you have full control of how much you make, how much you learn, how much you earn. So it just made perfect sense. So bit of a long-winded answer, but there.
Take us back. What were the first things that you started dropshipping? Can you remember your first, like, can you remember the very first? You were like, okay, right, yeah. I'm here now. I'm going to be a fucking billionaire. Let's go.
Yeah, I remember. So I remember sitting in my bedroom on my phone, and I was scrolling through these different products, and I was watching lots of videos, and I found like this moon lamp. So it looked pretty cool. It's like this little wooden stand, this moon lamp on it. The moon itself didn't look too much like a moon, but having a design background, what I did was I got the product off of AliExpress, and I edited a photo of the real moon onto the moon lamp. So it looked like this fucking super high definition moon lamp. And like, this is a very rare case, right? And this is early days dropshipping. So it was kind of undersaturated at this point. But I ended up posting on a Instagram influencers page. He was doing like this like Star Wars art theme page. He charged me like $25 to put a post up. He had like 700K followers. And we ended up doing something like 32K in the first month. And I just kept running ads with him like every other day or something like that. It was. So my costs were super low. I'd go back to him and I'm like, yo, can I run another ad? Because in my head, I'm like, fucking hell, I'm making like $2,000 every time I get to run an ad with this guy. And he's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, oh, maybe not today, we're a little, I'm not home or whatever. And I'll be like, that's cool. I'll give you $100, 4 times what you're asking. And he's like, oh yeah, fuck it. Sure. Little does he know, like we're printing money right now. And yeah, just kind of scaled from that. But like ongoing from that, I was kind of looking at different stores, running a pet one at the same time, a couple of failures there. But the whole process, I was learning every single time, learning how to manage funds, learning how to run ads, learning how to structure a good ad, sales copy, all of that kind of stuff. So I think like drop shipping is such a good entrance point for anyone looking to get started in online business. It's a little bit more difficult now, but it teaches you what you need to know. And it gives you enough failures to make you realize that failures are fine. You need them.
Where was your mindset at the time? So were you thinking, okay, I'm just learning, or were you thinking I'm about to like make millions? Can you remember what you felt like at the time?
Yeah. So I think for me, I've always had this really big driving force behind me for my mum. And no, like, cause obviously she's working a job. She's worked there for 20 years and she gets paid, in my opinion, fuck all for what she's worth. She's a single mum. She raised me by herself in the house, and a lot of costs. She's very stressed about money. So I always have this in the back of my mind, like, she's the person that I'm doing all this for, and I want to look after my family, right? So I had that driving force whilst I was out there as well. So this whole time I was researching and trying to find products to sell and trying to find businesses to work, that was my goal. So when the goal isn't just yourself and you actually have someone to look after from the end result, you end up getting way more motivated than you would if it was just for you. Does if I was to say, oh, you know, I just want to make some money for myself, I want to buy a Gucci jacket or a nice car, you're going to get burnt out and you're just going to be like, oh, fuck, this is too long. Like, I'm pretty happy in life. But when you portray it onto someone else, that motivation fucking kicks in 10 times as hard. So yeah, I remember coming back, I was working at a call center at the time, again, selling fire alarms. I'd sit there all day, literally just like researching dropshipping on this second screen, whilst like also processing orders from like these big, like Outback Australian guys that would call up like, hello, mate. Yeah, I need to place an order for 20 Tyco fire alarms. And I'm like, fuck off, mate. I don't want to take your order. I'm like, I'm trying to make money here. But, so yeah, I ended up running that in conjunction with the moon lamps. And yeah, that first day that I made all that money, I just went into that job and I was like, yo, I'm out. So just quit from there. But I honestly did spend like 12, 14 hours a day. Even when I was working at the job, I'd come home 5 p.m., sit there till 1, 2 a.m., working, learning, making stores, you know, optimizing everything that I could. And yeah, really put in the fucking work. It wasn't that easy, you know?
How many years ago was this?
Probably 5. No, 6.
Okay, so
it'll be 6 now, yeah.
6 years ago. So that was I've kind of been there and done it as well with setting up e-commerce stores, learning how to write ads, create content, create copy. And like, it really does feel like when you're doing everything, you're like, okay, right, I can understand now. I understand this is how I need to position something to sell to someone, or this is a kind of offer I need to architect to be able to get someone like to actually convert. And those are skills which, when I've worked in bigger companies and you've got, say, for example, you've got a marketing executive, or you've got fucking like, you know, sales, like business development representative or something, I know that they don't have, now looking back, I know that they don't have that kind of really unique skill set of like being able to put everything together, which I think this is what you and myself have. We've got this, because we've done everything. We're like, okay, shit, I can think about, okay, I'm going to need content for this. That means I need to instruct a content person or whatever. I need to be able to write sales copy. I need someone that can write all this. Whereas for us setting up a business, because we've been there and done it, we now know who we're going to have to hire. We know all the steps. And that's like, to me, what we're doing at the moment. We're being able to do all this quite fast because we kind of know what we need. What do you think skill set wise, if you could think about the top skills that you've learned in the last six years or however many years you've been doing, because you've got a fucking load, like I know all your skills, what would you say would be the priority ones for like a young entrepreneur, wannabe entrepreneur?
I'd say like this is one of my biggest personality traits that I don't really talk about, but deep down I'm so proud of it. Like, I'm a fucking hustler. I will hustle you, and I'll go into this like interaction together or offer a product, and I know that I'm on top, and I'm on top of everyone else because I've thought of something unique and smart that's different, right? So for example, the moon lamp, like adding a photo of the moon, I was the best fucking photo of this moon lamp online. It was the best looking moon lamp. So the reason why it sold was because it looked so good. And then all these other stores that, you know, started using the moon lamp would then steal my artwork, for example. So that for me was like, okay, this is my secret weapon here. My design skills and just like being able to think like, how can I give myself this extra leg up? That's what people need to be focusing on, because yeah, right now I'm just like, you see so many people trying to sell the same thing. Nothing's different. They're not really thinking outside the box. But yeah, being a hustler, I think, is one of the biggest skill sets I've picked up over the last, well, probably since being 16. I remember washing cars and finessing people, you know, based on being a cute little kid who'd knock on your door and, hey, would you like your car washed? You know, so
that reminds me of a story that Gary Vee talks about. I think it's Gary Vee talks about how the first time he ever sold stuff was he would go around his neighborhood. He'd go and pick flowers from someone's front garden, and he'd go and sell it to the same owner of that flower, the garden. And it's like, it's just, can you kind of unpack hustling a little bit more? Because I think, especially in the days that we've got kind of Andrew Tate and the Tate brothers with Hustlers University that's now been rebranded. Can you, the way I have a bit of a knowing you and knowing what you're really good at. So one of your like absolute superpowers among many others is your on calls, like sales calls, client calls. You are absolutely like world class at taking someone through a discovery process, a process that helps them uncover what they need, what they want, and not doing it in a pushy salesy way. You're absolutely incredible at that. Is that something that you've learned, or is that something that the hustling thing, is that innate? Like, tell me a little bit more about where the hell that comes from, because
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, I guess it's both learned and then also has been part of my life since being in school. Like, I always remember I was that guy who could push you right to the edge, but you'd never punch me because I'd always make you laugh in some way. You know, I'd push you to the point of exploding, and then you'd be like, but you know, he said this or he's doing this, and this is Liam. We you know, he's a good guy. So I'm very good at, you know, delivering information, getting my point across, but then also simply like understanding where that other person is as well, to a point. Like, emotional intelligence, I think, was like a big part of like growing up, and just understanding how that other person's thinking, what sort of objections they've probably got, or, you know, especially in sales, like you go into a meeting understanding exactly what you want, what the client wants, and the easiest and less friction way of getting there. So I think, like, for me, it came from reading as well, a great book, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is such an epic book. I don't know if you've read it.
Yeah, I've got. So I actually consider it so important that I have a summary version. And it's a like it's like 30 pages, and it's every single one of the chapters but summarized into a few paragraphs.
Yeah.
And I use that frequently to go back, and it's funny because like the summary like really brings out to me the how simple it is, really. Like, it's the simplicity of it, but how we don't get taught it. We don't, you know, I love it. So yeah, absolutely. And to me, seeing you don't weaponize it, but you like you leverage it so well. I've got a question for you, and this is around. So you talk about how you push people to their limit. And I've asked you this before. So despite what you can see on your screen right now, or if you're listening to this, Liam isn't 5'3". He's like 6'9". So he's actually really tall. He's tall, and he's like big. Like, he's like big built. He's not skinny. He's not he's like well built. I'm small. I'm shorter. Do you think like your height had anything to play, any kind of play in like you feeling like you could try and push people a little bit to their limits?
100%. Not in school, because I was small in school. I didn't get tall until
When you were small.
Oh, no, seriously. I was like, I don't know, 5'9". I was under 6 foot when I was 16. So from the ages of like 17 to 18, when I'd left school, that's when I started getting big.
But, shit.
But like, yeah, I agree. And being tall is such a powerful like bonus, or like a, you know, cheat code for life in general. I feel like people do listen to you more. Like, when I was 19, 20 in Australia, and all I cared about was chasing girls, it is the best cheat code to get girls ever. Like, and from that, it just builds your confidence. When people come up to you and they're like, fuck, you're a tall dude. And like, it just feels like, okay, this is good. I like hearing this stuff. And you know, it's kind of damaging, because if I turn out to be some ugly tall bastard in the next 10 years, then all that confidence would be from nothing. But it does build confidence in yourself, and that reflects in business, I feel like. So yeah, I don't know, like, it's obviously a super unfair cheat code that I got blessed with, but I think being tall, does help there.
I mean, that's really interesting, because I can't relate to that. I literally can't. It's something that despite all of my experiences, my intent to grow or learn skills, I will never be able to relate to that feeling. And that's something that's kind of weird. It's like one of those unique things where you realize, okay, this is just how it's something that I've been blessed with, and you can use it. But that's when, like, I obviously spend a lot of time with you socially, and I see, you know, I see how you interact with people, but it's never in like it's never in a forceful way. But yeah, I've always kind of just wondered if that had anything to do with it. It's quite interesting that it is.
I think it does. I think it puts a perception in someone's head when they see, like, for example, if I see a tall guy walk past me who's taller than me, and especially if he's got like a good body and a good build, I'm like, fuck, like that's an alpha male right there. You know, I want him in my circle. I don't know who he is, but I want to go speak to him because he's like a strong, dominant force. So I'm not saying that that's the reason why it helps, but there's been studies done that, you know, taller people get a little bit more attention, or they, you know, when they walk in the room, it's a little bit more like they own their space. So yeah, I have no clue, but yeah, I won't complain.
Do you fucking feel bad for me now? Like when
I
I
don't
walk
feel
in a
fucking
room and
bad,
like,
you
when
little
I
midget.
yeah.
I don't feel bad for you.
When I walk into a room and it's just I just feel like a shriveled little prawn, and it's just like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just yeah. But luckily I just I kind of blag it, and I just go up to people and
No,
just
you're such a good communicator. Like the reason why I'm so glad to be working with you, like just so your audience knows, you are the best person in the room. You trump me by a mile in terms of
that's
speaking to new
bollocks.
people. No, you do. You're just so charismatic. You're out there. You're just like, I sit back in awe sometimes. And I'm like, holy shit, like this guy's on fire. So props to you, man. Like, don't worry, you don't need to be tall.
Well,
You've got it.
it's honestly though, you say that because I mean I would echo that with you, to be honest, because when we go to events and it's in a few days time, we're going to be in Paris together for another Web3 conference, and we always really look forward to them because they are just always a lot of fun. We get to catch up with friends that we don't get to see very frequently, have a fun time, and uh, this time is going to be a bit different though, because we've very specifically said that we're going to focus on more on actually like networking, meeting new people.
Yeah.
So this is a chance for us to actually do this. And yeah, I love going to events with you because it's just like, yeah, well, I know that when we can go and we can split things up, we don't have to go and speak to the same people. We can be like, okay, Liam over there, me there, Mark there, and it's just like shows the power of having, I guess, like really good business partners. This is not the first time you've had a business partner. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey to where we're at now in the last few years? Because we started Unorthodox basically 9 months ago, and we're still super early agency with what we're doing. But at the same time, we've got a huge river of opportunity ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about the journey to get there in the last few years? Like, what have you been doing up until now?
So like since the moon lamp kind of thing, there was a ton of different businesses that I started that succeeded, that failed. All of them were mainly online except for one. I'll dive into that in a bit. But yeah, so for years, I was sat there working away in the office, like my home office, usually in my bedroom, just literally trying to find a product to sell, trying to find businesses to start. A really good one was, instead of just making Shopify stores to sell products, I would make Shopify stores to sell to people who wanted to make Shopify stores. So I've always found there is a really, really good way to make money if you're selling the shovels to people looking for the gold. And that's a rule that I kind of really follow. I always consider it with every business that I jump into. It's like, okay, I'm making money here, but how can I make money on the people that also want to make money here, right? And that's exactly the agency setup in a way.
Yeah.
So alongside any online businesses we've done, lots of e-commerce brands, but I also jumped into the real world business. So I had a luxury aquarium installation company. Me and my best friend at the time, well, it still is my best friend, but me and my best pal, we started this business, and it was kind of like a passion project. We were both really into fish, and when we were young, he was the guy I was in Australia with, right? So we're always like, when we go back to the UK, let's do this, let's start this, let's try that. And I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, let's run with this, because if I can sell incredibly expensive fish tanks, make a living from it, and do it every single day, I could probably die happy, because it's my passion, right? I was so obsessed and addicted. Like, I know so many things about different species of fish, corals, aquatic plants, all the Latin names. Honestly, I could bore you, man.
Well, I know this. I know this because we were walking through the duty-free section of one of the airports we were at recently. Heathrow, yeah, and maybe like 50 meters away, behind a bunch of counters and tables and stuff and perfumes and stuff, you were like, that's a Indian monkfish or some bullshit. And it was just like, I was like, what did you just say? And you pointed over and you were like, that's a blah, 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 like something really rare. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, that in that fish tank. And I was like, what fish tank? So I could barely even see the fish tank. And you had spotted like the actual like subspecies of whatever tiny little fish was in there from like 30 meters away. It was mental.
Yeah, but like that's the thing, right? And when something's your passion, you want to learn as much as you can about that thing, because you really do enjoy taking that information in. So like moving through the fish tank world, like I knew a lot of stuff. We came back to the UK. Again, my background was design, and I'd been setting up websites for a few years as well, just on the side as like a side hustle. So we came back to a market in London that is super old, super aged. They don't have any good websites. They don't have any good branding. So we saw a massive opportunity to say, cool, well, let's set something up here and be that dominant force who automatically comes out the gates looking like the highest level aquarium company who knows their shit. So yeah, we set that company up, set the website up. It was by far the best on the market at the time. We then started running Google ads, which no one else was doing as well, and sitting on top of all of the competition. So it instantly put us up there, wrote some fake reviews on Google. We'd email different companies. Well, yeah. Okay. So I'm jumping through it here, but one of the key things as well is like going back to this hustler mentality is finding ways to give you that advantage in business. And it was in this business that it worked perfectly as well. So we had all of these ideas, but no idea on how the product was actually delivered, how these guys were actually installing these big aquariums into houses, how they were winning the work and what they were charging. So we set up multiple Gmail accounts of like these Chinese restaurants. We'd call ourselves like Sally at the Guangzhou noodle bar or whatever, right? And then we'd email all of these companies and like fill in all of their like quote forms, asking them to quote us for different size aquariums, different panels of glass, whether it was acrylic, whether it was glass, what type of fish it was, whether it was freshwater, saltwater, living coral reefs. And then we'd ask them to give us a monthly maintenance plan and what that looked like and break down everything. Because these guys are dinosaurs and they're desperate for any work, they came back to us and they gave us so much information that we would literally just pull that information and put it into our sales decks. And we didn't go cheaper because we had the brand there. We looked the fucking shit, right? So we charged more. We then would win them on pitches where we were charging 4 or 5 times the price because we know what they're going in with. We know what they're delivering someone when they're asking for quotes. So it's like this guy sends out Excel sheets and then we were there making custom proposals with like beautiful artwork. We'd like Photoshop logos onto these like maintenance men that we'd get from iStock. So it looked like we had this huge team out there. I remember Photoshopping like a logo on like a warehouse where they were making glass and it looked like our fucking workshop. So we looked huge and it was just 2 23-year-olds sat in our home offices or bedrooms, running this company who had never set up a fish tank before. So hopefully I don't get sued by any potential clients that may be watching this, but yeah, it was a great experience. And then, we ended up selling a couple of fish tanks and these fish tanks weren't cheap. We'd charge maybe 50K, which in the US was 70, 75K. And then we would just fill the gaps and find suppliers who could then build the tanks, deliver the tanks, set up the tanks and fill them with fish. So we were basically just the middlemen who were making, big margins on these sales. So yeah, learned a lot with that business. I've probably gone off your point a little bit here, but
no, not at all. Like, because it's insane to think about how you had the foresight and the understanding that like for you to win business, you need to essentially just see what competition is out there and figure out a way to make it look like you can deliver better than them. And it's that simple. And it's like, it was a game. You gamified it. You were like, okay, right, we need to make it look like we look like this. It's an optics thing. And that's completely fair. That's completely reasonable. Like that is the game of business. The business is making it look, ultimately it came down to were you able to deliver it as well, which you were able to deliver the service. Yeah. But to winning business is fucking competitive and hard. Like it is very, very, very hard. And you have to think of all these little things. And it's amazing to see a lot of how many businesses and businessmen and entrepreneurs actually just don't do that diligence. They don't think about all those little things, and they leave money on the table. They're leaving money on the table because of it. 100%. But it gives opportunities for people like me and you who are like, okay, well, we're going to go that extra step and think about all of those different potential things like a prospect might be thinking about.
Yeah. And like the natural default for anyone who's starting a business is like, oh, let's go cheap. Let's get in some clients first. It's like, no, don't do that. Make yourself look like you already have clients, charge more, and then your perceived value is way higher. Why is someone going to go for you if you're 2 times cheaper than the normal rate just because you're brand new? Like, fuck that. I'm not using you. I'm just going to go to someone else. I'm not your guinea pig. Do you know what I mean? So don't be a guinea pig.
Don't be a guinea pig. And this is something that we're both myself and Liam have recently been kind of like, I guess, consuming Alex Hormozy's $100 million offers, but because Monster. Essentially, an absolute beast. He's giving the quite clear cheat codes to businesses very similar to ours. So service-based businesses with like high ticket price products and services. And to your point, one of the big things that he says about, charge you want to charge the premium prices. You want to charge the highest prices. You don't want to have competition, because if you charge the premium prices, you then have you have more money to deliver it. You then have more money. You actually can then like be like, okay, well, we've got this money. We can afford to spend money on delivering a really good service. If you're just fucking like bottom of the ladder, you don't have any money to actually deliver anything good.
No. And
you're killing yourself.
This is it. Like, this was what was happening in the UK with the luxury aquarium market. People were going in, they would charge 6K to set up an aquarium that we would charge 50K for. Now, it would cost us the same to make because we were all using the same suppliers. But instead, we then had 40K to then spend on our warehouse and building out more stock and just like in general, just having a pot of cash ready for us, right? So we invested a lot into our warehouse. We opened up an online coral business in UK from those funds. We were the biggest selling coral business for like the first 6 months until we shut it down. But we literally took over everywhere. We'd turn up at trade shows and we'd have to be kind of secret about it because there's lots of legal things and suppliers don't want to supply you if it's like a conflict against their big accounts and that kind of thing. So we'd turn up to these trade shows, kind of digressing here, but it's a funny story. And they'd be like, oh yeah, there's a company that's set up right now. We're trying to figure out who the guys are. It's called Polyp Box. And we're like, fuck yeah, we've seen them. They're everywhere. Like the ads just keep fucking spamming us. And he's like, yeah, we've been hit by ads nonstop. They're targeting our keywords. They're sitting on top of us above Google. And I'm like, fuckers, man, you really should find them. It's like a Batman scenario, right? Like, little do they know, I rip off my shirt and I've got the Polyp Box t-shirt on. It was so epic. Like, it felt so good. But like, all of this stuff just reinforces to you that this whole thing is a game. You don't like, just be smart. Stop thinking, don't think you have to put in all this work and you've got to like create the best new product. You just have to be fucking smart, get dirty, get in the mud, fucking do some cool guerrilla marketing stuff and figure out what's actually going to bring you results, but also treat it like a game. If it fails, press restart, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, because your business didn't fail. You decided to close it down. Yeah. And I think this is something that I'm going to make some assumptions here that you can potentially like kind of confirm or deny. But like when starting a business, and this is something that when I've started previous businesses before, you come to realize, okay, well, there's a total addressable market, right? There's a cap to whatever you can earn with any business. Like that's like how much you can potentially go and make is dependent on how much potential need or demand there is for products and services. Now, I'm going to assume the demand for luxury kind of aquariums and fish tanks, like there's not a huge potential massive market there, right? Like, because that's a super niche.
Yeah, there's 3 things. So the first is, yes, the niche itself is kind of limiting, right? There's not unlimited scalability. You can't just go to everyone and sell them a 50 grand fish tank. So your target market is pretty small. Number 2, this was a passion project when I first started. Both me and my best mate loved this. And by the end of it, I fucking couldn't look at another fish tank. I was sick of it. So it completely destroyed the love of having these tanks and like, caring for these fish and caring for these animals. And it was like, all right, well, I'm bored of it now because I've associated money with it and this tank at home isn't making me any money. So just get rid of it, And that was kind of sad for me because I genuinely loved it so much. And then number 3, I had e-commerce brands that were generating me like $250,000 in profit every month. And they were getting neglected because I'd have to go out and do fish tank maintenance. That was paying me fuck all. And it's like, what the fuck am I doing? I need to like reshuffle priorities. But these were all lessons, these are all lessons that I had to learn to then take forward onto my next business and understand like that I'm not going to make them mistakes again. So yeah, those are the 3 core things that kind of drove us to say, all right, let's leave it because it just doesn't make any sense anymore, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the next thing then, because sitting over your left-hand shoulder is on the back of your wall, just there. Yeah. Is it's kind of like, it's a disc, right? Or a gold vinyl. Is that?
Yeah, it's like a gold vinyl. Yeah.
It's a gold vinyl. So you just dropped a pretty crazy statement there. You said you were making $250,000 a month in profit from your e-commerce brand whilst you're doing the fish tank company. That is that's like an utterly insane number. Yeah. There are enterprise fashion brands that don't make that much profit. They're these with hundreds of employees.
I worked it out. The Euros were on at the time and I was making more than Gareth Southgate. So I was like, fuck yeah,
Oh,
like per day, I was like, yeah, this is good.
okay, right. Tell us, unpack this then, because this is crazy. So that's a crazy wild number, quarter of a
Yeah.
million per month. And tell us a little bit about what was happening, like what were you doing? And if we're talking about contrast, right, like the contrast from running a fish tank kind of aquarium luxury aquarium business where you're having to run out, do maintenance, installations, versus what were you doing to make a quarter of a million a month in
Yeah.
profit?
So I was selling an online digital product that had zero product cost that I had found through someone else on Etsy. It took me probably an hour and a half to set up. And by the first day, it was generating me 500 a day in profit. And then I just scaled it. So this is what I mean. It's literally a fucking game. Like, people take it too seriously and they're like, oh, I'm going to spend 4 hours building this website out and do this, do that. No, just test everything and anything. Go through as many failures as you possibly can. It's a numbers game, right? It's like the same when you go to a nightclub. You go and speak to a girl. First girl says, fuck off, I've got a boyfriend. It's like, all right, cool. Next one. No, I'm not interested in you. In your case, you're too small. And yeah, I'm not interested. And you go to the next one, the next one, the next one. It's like, eventually you're going to find a girl that is interested in you. And it's the same with business. You try as many things as possible. You don't give up, and you're going to land on something and you're going to crack it. So that's exactly what happened here. It was kind of like 2 years of like quietness, wasn't really making a ton of money. Had a couple of wins, but they went to paying rent and that kind of thing. So I then landed on Etsy as a platform, and I was like, holy shit, this is such a good way to get product research done, because these guys are making money already, but most of the time they're elderly people, maybe like in their 50s or 40s, that have set up these craft stores that are then selling them on the side. But there's like a small niche of these different services that are super weird. I don't really want to go into too much detail in terms of what the product was, because we're still selling it, but it was a digital service that they were only selling on Etsy. And I saw all these people talking about it on TikTok. They were getting super excited. It was kind of like a viral trend at the time. So all I did was I just took what they were selling. I made it on my own website on a ClickFunnels, which again, I had tons of experience in because that's what I was building products on prior to that. And then I started running Facebook ads and Instagram ads to that ClickFunnel. And again, I had learned that over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that's also key, like knowing that I had all this experience from all those failures. Like, that's why they're so important, right? If I hadn't had them, I would have no clue how to run these Facebook and Instagram ads. So then, yeah, we started pumping funds in. I'd wake up in the morning, 7 a.m., and there'll be 10 grand in the bag, So I'm like, fuck, all right, this is a cheat code, and I've got to ride it as long as I can. But then I'd wake up, put the aquarium maintenance kit on, and go out and make no money in the real world. But what was funny is I'd go and speak to these clients, and they'd be like talking like shit to me. And I'm just like, bro, I'm making fucking $250,000 a month. Go fuck yourself. Like, if they were shit clients, I'd just be like, fuck off. Like, I'm not interested. You're done. So it felt good having that power, and you really care about whether your real business was making money, because this like internet business that was so low cost, so profitable, was running in the background. You just like lose all perception of what's normal.
So can we talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of that? So you're running ads, and because when we talk about those numbers, those, I mean, what levels, how much were you putting in on ad spend, like per day when you were absolutely maxing out?
Yeah, I'd say so. Over like 8 months, we spent 1.2 million pound in Facebook and Instagram ads, which is obviously a huge amount of money. But then that brought us, I think it was close to 2.6 million in revenue. And like I said, the product cost was zero. I had a team in the Philippines, again, because I'd read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week and understood that outsourcing was the way to go. I had a team in the Philippines. I had 2 people, actually 3 people. It was a girl, her brother, and her sister working together. I was paying them like 50K a year each. So for like 8 months, they were on like making a bag. They ended up buying like a pharmacy. They paid for their dad to get like a kidney transplant. It was epic. It was so good. And like, they were running everything. They were doing everything. I set up systems in place like Zapier to port all information over to then feed into the VAs. They would then deliver, and there'll be like automated customer service emails and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, that was literally it. It's as simple as that. It was an email deliverable product. And I just put systems in place that meant that I didn't have to do the fucking work, which
Mate,
I think a lot of people mess up on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's something that we think about at the moment quite a lot. So like Hormozy talks about this being like, okay, well, when you're scaling, you've got to ask yourself like a question, like if you have something that you want to delegate, the question process should be, can I automate this process? If the answer is like kind of no, then it's like, do I need to then hire someone to be able to do this? And it's like, can AI do this? Can AI do it? Yes or no? Can I automate it? Yes or no with AI? And if there's not, if those two are like no, that's the only time you're like, okay, well now I should consider adding the expense of hiring someone.
Yeah.
The reason I'm sat here is because I read The 4 Hour Work Week in 2010 when I was at university. This is why I've got such a contrasting story to you, in that I did 7 years of fucking university and I don't do shit like with any of the information that I learned in those 7 years. But I read The 4 Hour Work Week in my, I think, 4th year of 7, so four out of 7 years, and it was like a penny drop moment. I was like, immediately I knew, I was like, I'm not going to be I'm not going to work as a medical practitioner. I'm not going to just sit there just fiddling around with people in people's mouths all day. I want to be an entrepreneur. But it's now taken me, it's 13 years before I finally feel like I'm in a position where I've got the skills and the experience to actually pull everything together and do something. When did you read that book?
I read that book a month before I started dropshipping. I think that was like my entrance point into it. Was the first book I'd ever read as well. I didn't ever read before that.
It's one of my, it's super funny because it is a book that again, we've mentioned Alex Hormozy. He also is the same. He like says that is that book. He read it again like you know years ago, and that was the thing that was like, okay, instead of me being an employee, I want to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And it's incredible that the book really like stands the test of time, because it was before Instagram, it was before Facebook, it was written in a time where we didn't have Shopify, we didn't have all these platforms. But it's kind of weird how all of the people that we've work with and our peers all seemingly were directed by that book, and I just find it kind of super interesting.
Yeah, I feel like you can tell an entrepreneur that's been in it for a while just by the way they sort of manage their workflow and workload, right? If someone's like, all right, we can automate this, we can do this, we can use this tool for that, we can hire in VAs to do this. It's like, oh shit, this guy's a veteran. He knows his shit. He's read a couple of books. But it's the newbies that are like, oh yeah, I just sit there grinding 15 hours a day, making money, or trying to make money. Yeah, it's like, keep going. You got a couple of years left until you really crack it. You got a lot more failures ahead of you. But it's just a mindset, right? And this whole online business thing is a mindset. It's ridiculous when you think about it. We're sat here, we're typing a couple of sequences of keys, few mouse clicks, and that generates us millions in dollars, depending on which ones we press in what order, right?
It's so crazy.
It's nuts.
Yeah, and when you put it like that.
Yeah, and I think personally, you said it took you a long time because you went to university, but going back to this product that was making all this money each month, the money was great. My lifestyle didn't change too much because, well, I was buying the shoes that I wanted. I was buying the clothes that I wanted. I bought a nice car. I bought a house, but it's like, that was it. I didn't go to like, I don't know, helicopter rides. Whatever crazy rich people do, I'm just not interested in it. I'm not going to be like, all right, cool, I'm only going to be drinking sparkling water that costs £50 a bottle from now on. It's like, no, I'll drink fucking tap water. I'm from like my background is not that, I'm fucking very brought up understanding that you got to work for your money. And I think that's what people don't realize. People are always so just excited to get to that point of making the money and having that money, but nothing really changes. And the best part about making that money is the process of making that money. That's what's really rewarding. Like just making the money itself, like it got too easy at some point. So I'll be like, oh, yeah, great. Like money coming in, it's boring as fuck though. And I'm not really enjoying it. And it's like, you got to slap yourself. I'd say that to my girlfriend. She'd be like, what the fuck are you on about? Like I'm working my ass off over here, making 5% of what you're doing. And I'm like, not even that, like a 1% of that. And I'm like, yeah, fair play. you know, you got to get a snap back into reality almost. And it's it's a weird one. A lot of
We've
people.
spoken about this. Yeah, we've spoken about this a lot, which is the thing that I love about entrepreneurship and the fact that it's a game is that there are infinite levels. Right.
Yeah.
So you said that you got bored because it got too easy, but what you probably at the time weren't really like thinking about was that actually there is another level.
Yeah.
And the other level is like, I believe it's like what we're doing now, which is like you're building an organization. There's kind of like, there's like 0 to like a couple of million, 0 to like 5 million, where you can do what you've done, which is you build, sell a product at fucking insane scale, like a relatively cheap product that has high profit margins. Like you have the ability to, within a few months, you could be doing the same thing again. But then you recognize now that there's a cap to that. Like, and the cap is perhaps a monetary cap, but then it's also I'm just going to get bored again because I'm not challenging myself. And to me, for the next level for you as an entrepreneur is, okay, well, now the challenge to me is like, okay, well, how do I get above 10 million? How do I get into the 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds maybe? There's no answer other than you have to learn how to grow and build a team. Like there's no example in
100%.
the world in history where it's like someone's made millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions or billions without hiring amazing people, without putting in place structures and processes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and where you're currently at, and maybe if you've had a mindset shift or anything that you've learned?
Yeah. And like you literally hit the nail on the head, right? Like understanding that you don't know everything. And if you think you know everything, you probably know fuck all, like, because you just have no idea. So when I was making that money, I was like, okay, like I'm unstoppable. I'm the e-commerce god. You know, this is so easy for me. And then I started another e-commerce brand and it failed. So I'm like, all right, maybe I'm not. So you get a bit of a humbling slap in the face. But yeah, like I was bored of it. So for me, I then had to realize what it was that I actually enjoyed. And like I said, it was the process of making the money. And I think for me, it was the confidence that I got of saying, I did this, you know, I made this. And that comes when you create this e-commerce brand and you're making the money. But I think it's much more rewarding if there's a business you're building rather than like a single product that is ultimately riding on a trend. So yeah, I've learned that like I need a team around me that one betters me, teaches me things, and complements the things that I'm terrible at. Like I'm terrible at admin. I'm terrible at, you know, creating structure. I've got a lot better now, but you know, working solo for the last 5-6 years by myself, locked away in my office, is like it's been detrimental. It hasn't been good for me. So you know, you know that like we've kind of stepped in together, and you've been like, no, you need to be doing this. And I'm like, yeah, he's fucking right. I need to be doing that. And I need to learn how to be more structured and set out a routine. And I think that's, one of the biggest learnings I've had.
And the kind of crazy thing for me is that because you are an incredible learner, like you say stuff like I'm bad at admin, but in my opinion, that is currently for you, that is just a limiting belief. Yeah. It's not actually that you're bad at admin. It's just that your set of circumstances and experience over the last 6 years or during your entrepreneurial journey has meant that it's something that you haven't had to even brush up as a skill set. So it's not that you're maybe like naturally bad at it. It's just that because you're diligent as shit. Like if you look at the stuff that you've done, running ads, making content, like coming up with sales copy and marketing angles and hooks and all of that stuff, that is admin. That literally is, there is admin there. You know, I know when you create decks, you create documents, you're capable of doing it. It's just that you've never been in a position where you've had to consider it. Cause like when you're working on your own, you just do the next thing that you're like, okay, I now just need to do this, but there's no one else accountable. But I'm like not the scary thing, but like the exciting and scary thing for someone like you who has so much potential is when you will learn and now master those things, you're going to be fucking unstoppable, because it's like when you get your skill sets on those things where you currently have a little bit of gaps, but you're definitely going to learn them. It's like, oh shit, then you've got like the fucking like uber skill set of entrepreneurial like Jedis.
Yeah, 100%. And you're spot on with the limiting beliefs. Like I say I'm bad at admin. I just don't enjoy admin. It needs to be done, but I'm not necessarily bad at it. I just don't enjoy it, so I don't do it. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just a different way of phrasing that. But yeah, you're spot on, and you need to understand what you're not currently good at, and you need to learn how to do it. Because if you want to be successful in business, you don't have to deliver the work. Someone else can do it for you. But in order to hire someone, you need to understand what their role needs and what they're actually doing for your company, so you can choose what the right person is for that role, right? So yeah, you're 100% right. And it's just like understanding as many facets of business and just like independent like structure for people that are working for you, or how you operate. That's what's important.
Yeah, mate. And yeah, that's it. Like, especially when it comes to you managing your time and getting better at that. Like,
yeah,
I see it every day. You get better at all these little things, and slowly it becomes gets to a point where it isn't a limiting belief. And I think one thing like this is actually, I'm pretty sure this is like one of the core kind of values that Alex and Layla Hormozi have at their company, acquisition.com. The main one is like, do the boring work. That's their mantra. Their mantra is like, is business, like for high scale, high volume business where you make millions and potentially billions, there is a lot of boring work to get done. And
100%.
you know, it's, you know, you have to, if you're constantly just looking for the next exciting thing, that's when you're just paying, you're like, okay, new idea, let me just fucking do this. And it's
dopamine,
just like
dopamine.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're like, okay, well, this is just going to be the next challenge, when actually it's, okay, well, what if I just do the same fucking thing for 10 years and I just become the best in the world at it? And it's a service that people need, like always need. It's a classic thing that some of the wealthiest people on earth are the ones that have the most boring companies. You know, they sell toilets, or, you know, whatever. It's like they're manufacturers of Blue Roll or shit like that. They're the fucking wealthiest people on earth. But it's not like, you know, they're not bragging about it, because but they're the ones that fucking have the mansions and the private jets.
Well, look at Amazon. It's pretty fucking boring. It's just a warehouse that just ships products out. Like, you know, it's not their products. They're not getting creative and making stuff. Yeah, they're making the Alexa and stuff like now, but it's still pretty boring. I don't think I'd be excited to be running Amazon, but I'd be fucking love to wake up and check my bank account on my mega yacht, you know? But, yeah, no, you're right. And I think you train your brain to do hard things. You need to do that. Your brain naturally wants a way out. It doesn't want to do hard things. It doesn't want to face failure. It wants to avoid pain at all costs. So what you need to do is like going to the gym every day. Most people don't ever do it because they're like, you know, I don't want to go to the gym. It's like, well, no, just have a little bit of discipline, go to the gym, and you'll learn to then understand that your brain doesn't dictate what you do in your day-to-day life. If there's a hard task there, if you have to go to the gym and lift heavy weights, you don't want to do it, but you still do it, your brain then learns that, you know, you're not just going to listen to whatever it says, and the limiting beliefs that it feeds you then become redundant. So
yeah, mate. Well, we're going to wrap things up, and I've got one last question for you. It is quite simple. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Oh, that's a good one. Wear a condom. No. No. But advice to my 18-year-old self is just keep doing what you're doing. Like, but be a little bit more sensible with your money. Be a little bit, you know, try to learn things about finance. Make sure you understand about money when it comes into your pocket, because that's one thing a lot of people don't know. When they start making money, they go crazy. They live a life that they can't, you know, continue living. And then the money stops and they're fucked. So yeah, just understand a little bit more about finance, but yeah, just keep being a persistent bastard and keep working your ass off, because it's going to pay off.
I love that. I want to get a little bit deeper on that one about the learning about money, because this is super, super important for young people.
Yeah.
Is it like, looking back, is it because you had an assumption that, okay, I have all this money coming in, and you were just like, this is just going to stay this way, I'm just going to keep on making, you know, you never really saw.
It was monopoly money, mate. It was monopoly money. Like I didn't lose it all, but what did happen was, you know, not even on this business really, but like other businesses, when you lose touch of what money actually is, like if you're making 250K that's coming into your bank account every single month, you're like, all right, this is stupid. I can just go and spend whatever I want. And I was throwing money at like lawyers to file trademarks for businesses that I want to set up. And then I'd be like, I don't want to set that business up anymore. So like $4,000 down the bin, different money here and there. Like buying NFTs was a great example, right? I went like crazy on crypto, and it's like, no, just have a little bit of structure, like remove emotions from how you treat your money. And I think that the key is structure, right? Just having structure in your life. That's something that I've lacked because I've never had someone to enforce it. Over the last couple of years, it's the biggest thing that I've tried to focus on. And it's the thing that's going to take me to hundreds of millions of dollars. So
yeah, epic, mate. I believe that. And that's why I'm sat here with you and have a business with you, because I fucking believe that. So yeah, mate, thank you so much for joining me today. I think like your story is absolutely like inspiring, and I know that there'll be a lot of people that will look at your story and be like, okay, well, if Liam can do it, like I can at least have a go. I would highly recommend anyone to subscribe to Liam's channel, because he drops weekly videos on everything to do with like kind of technology and business, online business and mindset. And he's one of the best out there. And so, yeah, very happy to have him as a business partner.
Yeah, I'm very happy too. And yeah, like key point, anyone can do this. No one is a superhuman. If you're watching YouTube videos all day of people making money, that's just because they started and they tried. Like I dropped out of school at 16, didn't read a book until I was like 21. I'm a fucking idiot. And somehow we're doing all right. So you've got a chance.
We have a chance. Right, mate. Thank you so much. And we're going to get you back on this at some point in the future. Cheers, mate.
Sounds good, mate. In a bit, Tom.
Peace. I hope you enjoyed that show. If you haven't already done so, hit the like button down below. Make sure to subscribe so that you can learn from the very best that I'm going to be interviewing at the Summit Club. If you didn't know this already, I also have another podcast called The Unorthodox Podcast that I do with my co-founders, Liam and Mark over at Unorthodox. We're a Web3 marketing consultancy. If you want to go check it out, it's quite a lot of fun. If you want to learn a bit more about crypto and everything Web3, that's the place to come check it out. We interview some of the most interesting people within Web3 and also executives across some of the biggest brands on the planet. Come and join us. The links are also going to be down below in the description, and I'll see you next time.